Hi, everyone. Before we start analyzing and identifying diction in a short essay, we're going to practice analyzing and identifying diction in a piece of Dr. Seuss. Relatively low-level reading, something we read when we're little, but I think is a great example of how to go through the process of reading, identifying, highlighting, and then analyzing examples of authors' word choices. Remember, diction is the choices that authors use when they're writing, and they're very strategic and specific in those choices. So as you're reading and identifying diction, you want to highlight words that stand out to you, words that pack a punch, words that are unusual. And as you're highlighting, you'll be able to see patterns. You'll be able to see similarities amongst the words so that at the end of your reading, you are able to analyze what types of words the author uses and what sort of effect that those words have. So let's take a look at this short example that I have for you right here. The Lorax. At the far end of town where the grickle grass grows. Oh, I'm going to highlight grickle grass right there because I think that that's something that immediately stands out to me. Grickle grass makes me wonder, what does grickle grass look like? So I highlight that word. And the wind smells slow and sour when it blows, and no birds ever sing excepting old crows. In this is the street of the lifted Lorax. I want to highlight lifted Lorax. Those words stand out to me. They seem important, but I'm not really sure why at this point. And deep in the grickle grass, some people say, if you look deep enough, you can still see today where the Lorax once stood just as long as it could before somebody lifted the Lorax away. What was the Lorax, and why was it there, and why was it lifted and taken somewhere from the far end of town where the grickle grass grows? The old onceler still lives here. Ask him, he knows. I'm also going to highlight the word onceler. Stands out to me. Something that I'm not really sure what a onceler is or who he is. So again, just in that first paragraph, I have grickle grass, lifted Lorax, and onceler. You won't see the onceler, don't knock at his door. He stays in his lurkum on top of his store. I'm going to highlight this word lurkum. Stands out to me. Not really sure what that is. He lurks in his lurkum under the roof, where he makes his own clothes out of miff muttered moof. I'm going to highlight these three words right here. It's an example of alliteration, but it also is an example of words that pack a punch, words that stand out. Miff muttered moof. What is that? Not sure. And on special dank midnights in August, he peeks out of the shutters, and sometimes he speaks and tells how the Lorax was lifted away. He'll tell you perhaps if you're willing to pay. On the end of a rope he lets down a tin pail, and you have to toss in 15 cents and a nail and the shell of a great-great-great-grandfather's snail. Then he pulls up the pail, makes a most careful count to see if you've paid him the proper amount. Then he hides what you've paid him in his snub. I'll highlight that word snub right there. His secret strange hole in his gravulous glove. Again, words that stand out to me. Then he grunts, I will call you by my whispermaphone, for the secrets I tell you are for your ears alone. I know what a phone is, but I'm going to highlight whispermaphone because, again, it kind of stands out to me. So I look at these three paragraphs and I look at the collection of words that I've highlighted, and I have grickle grass, lifted Lorax, onceler, lurkum, miff muttered moof, snub, gravulous, whispermaphone. So I start to ask myself, what do these words mean? What do they have in common? What sort of patterns do I see? And I think a really good place, once I've highlighted my words, to look at, to start to think about how to describe these words, is this handout that I posted in the lesson, Words to Describe Diction. Are these monosyllabic, one syllable? Are they polysyllabic, more than one syllable? We know that most of these are more than one syllable. Are they slang? Possibly, but slang for what? Informal. Well, they're definitely not formal language, so these definitely could be classified as informal diction. Are they general or specific? Seem to be very specific, but at this point, I don't even know what those specificities are because they seem to be made up. Do they have an exact meaning, or do they have more of a suggested meaning? Well, they definitely have some sort of meaning. I'm not sure what it is since I don't know what these words mean. Are they concrete or abstract? Are they euphonious, or are they cacophonous, harsh sounding, or very, very smooth, sort of pleasant sounding? I can also take a look at all of these other words to describe diction, and ask myself, are these words obscure? Absolutely. We could definitely describe all the words we highlighted as obscure, right? We don't know what a onceler or myth muttered moof is. So we could absolutely describe this as obscure diction. As I continue to look at my list of words to describe diction, I can take a look down here at the very, very bottom. Notice how it says childish, foolish, youthful. Absolutely, I think that these words could be described as this. They seem to be words that a child would make up if they were just telling a story. He stays in his lurkum, right? I'm not really sure what that is. Is that his house? Is that a special little hut that he has? Makes me think about when you're little and you make up words as you're playing. So the words to describe the diction in the Lorax, you definitely could use obscure or childish, maybe even abstract, since we're not really sure what they mean. But it's really important once you have highlighted those words that stand out to look for a word that can identify or describe the words as a whole, and then start asking yourself, how do these words affect the meaning of the work? How do they affect the mood or the tone of the piece? And that's something that we'll get on to talk about in a later lesson, but just a good example for you to see a different type of diction.